3 East Broadway. This is a live edition of the Jake Feinberg Show, coming to you on Power Talk. Please go to our website, powertalk.live. Download our free app to your smartphone so you can stream all of our live local programming, including Solomon on Blast, the Jim Parisi Show, and yours truly, the Jake Feinberg Show. Can't thank you enough for making us part of your day today. And as often happens when you're reaching out into a divine world or a divine frequency and you connect with people, essentially the caroms of the cosmic ocean come and find other people and sweep them into your net. And just on a whim, for the second time, I had a chance to hang with the great producer and singer Daniel Moore, and knowing that he produced CARP, or yeah, that's right, this venerable folk psych band in California. He was riffing on his experience with Gary Busey, and next thing I know, the post is being shared, and this cat comes on and says, I was part of that band. And I said, well, this is really what my show is really all about after 8 years and 1,500 interviews. And so get a chance today to talk to a great bass player, and looking forward to breaking it down. John R. Crowder, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Well, thank you very much. Glad to be here.
It's an honor to have you, man. I kind of wanted you to talk a little bit about, in your mind, I've interviewed Jimmy Lee Keltner several times, obviously Daniel Moore. I've interviewed some black musicians from the Tulsa area as well. I would like you to talk a little bit about the regional sound of Tulsa, in your mind, that was there when you were, a kid.
Okay, I didn't grow up in Tulsa. Our first experience in going to Tulsa was playing on the Dance Party Show, which was their local American Bandstand equivalent. And me and a couple of the fellas from Fairfax, Oklahoma, that was our hometown.
Oh, wow.
We'd go over there and play. And then as we got older and started to college and so on, we met Gary at about that time. I think I was a sophomore at OSU, Oklahoma State, when Gary transferred down from, I don't think it's Kansas State, but it's whatever's in Coffeyville, Kansas. And we ended up kind of starting a house band in the Sigma Chi house where we were pledging. A couple of the other fellas in the fraternity fleshed out the band, and we started going to California, I think, summer of '67.
This is fantastic. So you grew up in Nebraska? Is that what you said?
No, in Oklahoma.
In Oklahoma. So was
a little bit?
Yeah.
It's a little bitty town called Fairfax. It's up in Osage County, and that was Oklahoma State.
Did you spend any time in Oklahoma City at all?
Hardly at all.
Okay, so
no, no, basically.
So basically, so I mean, where you clearly, I mean, maybe you took some lessons when you were a kid, maybe not, but I mean, you were not coming out of the academy, so you guys were all, you would say you were essentially a street scholar, as it relates to the music. I mean, where were you at? The magical thing about that whole time period was that you really didn't necessarily know how to. You didn't have to be a master of your instrument to be able to play music and possibly make a hit record.
That is correct, and I think that was the dream of all of us when we decided to start moseying to California and see what we could get going in the big pond. And we went, I think, the summer of '67, and then returned at the end of the summer to Stillwater, Oklahoma. That's where Oklahoma State University is. And we did another year of scholastics, and then went back the next summer. And I think that's the summer we stayed.
Let's talk about this. So I mean, just saying, you went into a fraternity, and Busey's already there. I mean, did he have like some kind of like, I mean, was he trying? I mean, where were you guys at when you say you fleshed out the band? What kind of band? I mean, were you basically playing rock music? Because I guess what I'm trying to say is that there were, I mean, the popular musics of that time, because I've interviewed guys that you may even know, like Fred Tackett and Bill Maxwell and people like that.
I know the names. I don't know them.
And they were just like
We were just a cover band. We did songs off the radio. We had very strong vocals among us. Everybody in the band could sing a part, and so we could do Beach Boys songs or anything like that, and did. Started off, I had pledged Sigma Chi, as I said, and then Gary transferred down in the middle of the semester from Kansas. And our little band in Sigma Chi, we had keyboard, bass, and guitar. We didn't have a drummer. And so when Gary came down, well, ain't that nice? Well, we got us a little four-piece band, and we started to play fraternity parties and such. And we're pretty popular on campus.
You had a lot of women chasing you around and whatnot. I mean, can you talk? I mean, I remember talking to this cat Paul Hornsby, who was part of the Hourglass, which was the original incarnation of the Allman. Greg and Dwayne Allman went out to California before they became the Allman Brothers, around the same time that you guys did. And they just kind of got tired of the branding and the conformity of the record industry, so they skipped back to I guess it would have been Alabama or Macon rather, and started the Allman Brothers. Can you talk about? I mean, I know you guys were literally fish out of water when you got out there in the big pond, but what are your memories of that first go around? Because I mean, '67 was a vibrant cultural year in our country's history. I mean, you guys were were you doing a lot of psychedelics, and what kind of stuff were you doing when you got out there?
No, we did very little drugs. We, of course, tried everything, and we liked the pot.
Yeah.
But that was about the extent of it. We had tried the acid and this and that, but to be honest, didn't care for it. And so, yeah, we played around in clubs in the San Fernando Valley and here and there, and we'd get a manager. Had a fellow named Buddy Resnick for a summer who got us in with Mike Post.
Wow.
You may know his name.
Whoa.
He, as you know, has written many TV theme songs and Lord knows what all. But, yeah, we did a record for Reprise at the end of the summer, and we're convinced, stardom just was around the corner. But as it happened, that's when we hooked up with Danny. And he had a partner named Buzz Clifford at the time, and they kind of took us under their wings and got us that deal with Epic. And so we got to cut an album in the big studio.
I mean, I guess let me go back to that. You had now, so '67, the end of that year. You cut an album for Reprise, and what happened to that material?
Well, it just went down the tubes. It didn't do anything.
Well, I mean, but did it actually get pressed on record?
Yeah, I guess it got distributed to radio stations. Don't know. I think the Coffeyville, Kansas radio station played it a few times just because we were the local sons, so to speak.
Absolutely. No, I guess my what was the name of the album?
Oh, it wasn't an album. It was just a single, a 45.
Right. So what was do you remember the name of the tune that was on? I mean, this is just important because, I mean,
sure.
You're basically hipping me.
Oh, yeah. It's a good one. Are you ready?
Oh, I'm ready.
Messing up the mind of a young girl. And he had all the A-list studio players in there, Jimmy Gordon and Joe
cow! This is brand new off the. This is why I had Crowder on the program. This is mind blowing.
Yeah, Mike Post. He was awesome.
So, I mean, God, this is. I mean, I'm trying to figure out if there's even any kind of information on the internet messing up the mind of a young girl. This is.
Yes, I might possibly have a copy. I don't know.
Were you going as with the name CARP at that time, or was it a different band name?
Oh no. We had a different name then, and I'm not sure what it would have been. Might have been the Rubber Band. We were the Rubber Band for a while.
The Rubber Band. This is unbelievable. So I mean, wait a minute. This is interesting because I know that back then, and I think you just sort of fleshed this out, was that I think it was based on like union rules, but basically bands that were sort of, it was their maiden voyage. They actually didn't record their music. Like it was the Studio Sharks that would come in and record their music. And that sounds like what happened. You're telling me Jimmy Gordon, Joe Osborne were the rhythm section on this 45, on this single.
Yeah, Mike Dacey, all those guys.
Oh, Dacey, my God, a dear friend of the program. I love Mike Dacey. Hold on for a second. How did it feel for Crowder, you personally, how bizarre that you're sitting in the control room watching other people record your music?
Well, it wasn't our tune. I'm trying to remember who wrote. I think the B-side was written by a fellow named Walt Meskel, who was an associate of Mike Post, and probably Buddy Resnick, who was our manager. And let's see, what was that song? I don't remember.
Okay,
but
no.
At any rate, they weren't our original tunes. They had, I guess Mike helped pick out the song. He may have written it for all I know.
But,
and it was wild watching those guys play because our jaws were just open. My God, listen to these guys play. They're impeccable and playing wild, crazy stuff we'd have never thought of. And I was just running around like a tourist in the studio taking pictures of everybody. Oh, there's Gary Coleman. All right.
Gary Coleman. Dude, do you know, where is Gary Coleman, man? I need to find him, dude. I'm obsessed with Gary Coleman.
The percussionist?
Yes, I've been, like I told you, Emil Richards, rest in peace, just passed. Him and Gary Coleman were the first top call percussionists in Los Angeles. I cannot believe you just dropped Gary Coleman's name. I'm obsessed with Gary.
I have no idea. I have not seen these guys since 1967.
It doesn't matter, Crowder. This is so legendary. I mean, you're telling me that I understand, okay, so you weren't as good a bass player as Chuck Rainey, or you weren't a studio shark like Osborne, those cats.
Not hardly, no.
No, and that's fine. But the thing is, I'm still trying to put this together. So basically, you have to excuse me because I'm just a mere lad at 41 years old, but I'm really trying to figure this out. That you were going to walk away with product. Let's just say you were called the Rubber Band. Definitely get back to me on what the name of it. If you find the 45, let me know. But let's just say you walk away with product, and you go back as to OSU, and
right.
Okay, but yet the 45 is neither an original tune of the Rubber Band, nor did you play on it.
That is correct. We sang on it, and that was it.
Oh, okay. It's vocals. That's the point. It was a vocal. Moore made the point to.
Oh God, I've got it in my hand.
I knew it.
Messing up the mind of a young girl was written by Joey Brooks.
Joey Brooks. This is ridiculous.
I don't know who he is.
No, I don't either, dude.
And it says the Rubber Band, produced by Mike Post, arranged by Mike Post.
Holy cow!
It's on Reprise. The B-side is "I'm Gonna Make It." We were called the Rubber Band at that time, and that's it. I'm looking at the 45.
I just want to say I'll get with you later once I do some research, but this could be brand new to the internet. I'm not even kidding you. I mean, this could be brand new because the only thing out there, this is more mercurial, and rightfully so, than even. I mean, I see the CARP record once in a few years. Maybe you see it, and you have to actually take the time to read the liner notes on the back to see that Busey's on there, and obviously now I'm bringing Crowder to life as well, but. Can you talk about the way you guys worked in four-part harmony together? I think it's very sophisticated. It's something that's missing in modern music today because there's not a lot of dynamics in modern music, mainly because the rhythm is mechanical and has been quantized. And so I'm curious about.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, no, I mean, can you talk about I guess here's the point too. In my fantasy world, I'm thinking Crowder and Busey and you guys are singing your butts off while the rhythm section's cooking the groove. But did you dub your vocals and talk about how you guys worked in?
Yeah.
Because you could all sing.
Yeah, we overdubbed the vocals. The guys nailed the basic track down and did all the sweetening that was needed, and then Mike got us out there to sing. I'm pretty sure Gary sang the lead vocal on both of them. I think, and then the rest of us did the ooh-ahs and the la-las and the what have you.
This is so. Hold on for a second. Oh my God! All right,
Yep.
We're talking live here on Power Talk with John Crowder. Let's sit back and take a listen to this, and then we'll come back and break it down. All right?
Okie dokie.
Okay.
You say you love her, but you don't. You say you stay with her, but you won't. But she's believing everything you say. She don't know that nothing's gonna turn out her way. But you're messing up the mind of a young girl, yeah. Messing up the mind of a young girl. Ah, she's such a young girl, yeah. You say the love you give is true, and so she gives her love to you. Into a magic world you lead her in. She let you take her where she's never been. Oh, you're messing up the mind of a young girl, yeah. Messing up the mind of a young girl. Ah, she's such a young girl, yeah. You say you love her, but you don't. You say you stay with her, but you won't. But she's believing everything you say. She don't know that nothing's gonna turn out her way. But you're messing up the mind of a young girl, yeah. Messing up the mind of a young girl. Ah, she's such a young girl. Messing up the mind of a young girl, yeah. Messing up the mind of a young girl.
Music on the Jake Feinberg Show, brought to you by Abbott Taylor Jewelers, Craig Pretzinger of Allstate Insurance, and Dr. Butch Diggs of Diggs Dental. And we can't thank them enough for their support so we can play absolutely insane, going back in the time machine for Crowder, a 45 on Reprise, "Messing Up the Mind of a Young Girl," and it sounded like, I mean, I don't know, when was the last time you even heard that?
Oh man, got to be 50 years ago.
Oh my God! I mean, so it says it's funny because people are perplexed. I'll send you the link to where I found this. There's a guy who has a 45 catalog, and then he uploads them to YouTube. And so just to be clear, it was Jimmy Gordon, Osborne. I heard a guitar. Was Dacey on guitar?
That was Mike Dacey playing that.
Oh
crazy.
my
He had
God!
a new amp that made this some kind of crazy feedback that we had never heard. It sounded like he was playing backwards. You know, like when the Beatles would put those backwards sections on their records.
Yes, exactly.
That's what his guitar sounded like. And that, oh, we were freaking out.
Dude, this is my, so, and then also was Mike Post on piano, or who was on piano?
No, I think that was Nectal.
Nectal! Holy cow.
Yeah.
This isn't, so then it says here in these notes, it says there are 4 or 5 groups called the Rubber Band with releases during the 60s. Yeah. And there's a Rubber Band from 69 on GRT, but you guys were already CARP at that point. Is that, I mean, you didn't do anything other than this.
We had an evolution. We had a problem with naming ourselves. We never seemed to be happy. We were Bordine for a while, Bordine.
Oh my God!
Because that was Busey's house mother's name up in Kansas.
Bordine.
And we were number 5 Slop Jar for a spell. And then we finally settled on CARP and formed a corporation and a publishing company and all this stuff. Superfish Tunes and Trash Fish Publishing and CARP the band.
John, now I want to be clear. When I interviewed Daniel for the second time, he said you guys were a Tulsa band. When did you actually go to Tulsa?
Well, we played, let me get this together. Well, Gary was from Tulsa. And Ron Getman, who is our guitar player, he and I were from Fairfax. Mm-hmm. And Glenn Mitchell, the keyboard player, was from Stillwater. And I'm trying to think when we did play in Tulsa. It had to be while we were at OSU. I guess it would be pre-1970.
Right. So just to get this chronology correct, I mean, a 45 was cut. Who was your manager? What was his name?
Buddy Resnick.
Dude, what a hero that cat is, man. I mean, he took you guys off the scrap heap. I don't know what he was. That is so ridiculous that he got you in there. And then
we went into his office. Gary had gotten some names from somebody of potential men. Boy song in his office for him, and we nailed it, and he was blown away. He said, "Yeah, we'll do something." And he got us hooked up with Mike Post, who was the same way. He said, "Oh man, you guys' harmonies are delicious," and had us learn a Beach Boy song. I forget which one, but we didn't release it. But anyway, he liked it. He got us that song, "Messing Up the Mind." I think Mike found that one.
Yeah, it absolutely here. Promo copy, Joey Brooks. God knows Joey Brooks Productions, but
I don't know who he was.
Is it fair to say, now again, we're streaming worldwide on internet radio. This is not hard-lined. I live in Tucson, Arizona, so we're not hardwired into AM or FM radio, but it's fair to say that you had some, I don't know, you were given some promo copies of it, and you actually just gave it to the local station, the OSU, when you came back from California. Is that, and then they just played it?
Right. and the radio station in Coffeyville, Kansas, which was I don't know, probably a little 5,000 watt station or something, and they played it because Gary had gone to school there. They didn't play it for long. We were convinced it was going to be a huge hit.
Oh
for
yeah,
us.
dude. I mean, this as far as I'm concerned, that thing holds up. So that thing is one of the most killer vocal tracks I've heard from that period. It does have a lilting Beach Boy psychedelic surf sound, but yeah, I mean, part of it. I don't want to. I mean, everybody knows Busey as an actor, but was he always kind of one of these people that was a larger than life figure? He had these reputations in different towns. I mean, did he have a lot of street cred already, even as a musician?
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
He was always very energetic and definitely, an A-type personality.
Right.
And he was certainly the leader of the band and the director, and persuaded us all to move to California and all that. We were studying to be dentists and school teachers and all that kind of stuff. Then we got to sniffing this rock and roll stardom, and hey, this wouldn't be bad.
So
it didn't exactly unfold that way, but
well, I guess here,
it was fun.
No, I mean, I am curious about, not that you guys were planning, that far ahead, and we were not interconnected, and just the fact that you had bleed through stations. I mean, Lord knows your song might have gone down to New Orleans on a good night. I mean, it was just wide open radio. But when you came back to OSU, and then you were sort of playing regional, I mean, was the plan to sort of, I don't know, traditionally bands make records and then they would go out on a tour and play those songs. Now, again, you didn't necessarily play the instruments, but you were singing. I mean, when you went back, was the plan to work these tunes out? Did you rigorously?
Yeah, we worked them. We worked them out like the next day. We could, do a pretty good job. As I said, we were a cover band before, and we could always get pretty close to what we heard on the radio. And same for this record.
Was there any?
We couldn't really.
Yeah.
We didn't have the Mike Dacey screeching guitar amp, but we could get.
The man is totally. Dude, the man. All you need to know about Mike Dacey is that the man played with Cannonball Adderley in '73, and it's just the most. It's insane music. I've never heard anything quite. And they give him a full. I think Clapton also wanted his amp or something. He was obsessed with Dacey's amp. Dacey was just channeling something from another world. But did you?
He was, yeah.
You guys are all crazy. But the thing is, did you have did you have a plan? I mean, ultimately, CARP went back, and that's when you cut the record on Epic. But in '70, but was that the plan, or was it? Were you gigging and still playing cover tunes in that couple years before you went back to LA?
Oh yes, yeah. We played around in clubs and parties and such, and I think probably '68 we moved out there for good. Buzz and did the CARP album. And we did those tunes, and God Almighty, Epic set us up with an opening for Sly and the Family Stone.
Oh my God! Oh my!
At Stanford University. Oh, it was a night that will live in horror.
I don't know. First of all, hold on. You were playing Frost Amphitheater at Stanford? Are you serious?
Well, it was an outdoor venue. I don't know.
Oh
I
my
suppose
God,
it was
this is
amphitheater.
crazy. Yeah, because you're right. Sly
we
was.
had no roadies. We had no roadies or nothing. It was just the four of us, and we had our little pieces of shit amplifiers out on the stage. Sly's back line looked like the friggin' Maytag showroom.
Oh.
He had these white acoustic amps that were all the size of refrigerators, and back there, and all our shit was just set up in front there. And we Gary wanted us to do a couple of our acoustic songs, since we did some acoustic songs. The guitars were sitting out there in the cool night breezes and the lights shining on them. So by the time we got to the acoustic song, they were so egregiously out of tune that it was horrifying. They were finally hollering at us to get the fuck off the stage, and it was horrible.
I mean,
we had our one little pocket of fans from Mammoth Lakes. We'd play up at Mammoth on the weekends, and we had a little pocket of about 15 of our friends right down at the front. They were yelling and clapping, but everyone else wanted to see Sly. And so I think, had a, 20, 25-minute set. And when that was done, we just had to run right back and start carrying our amps off the stage, get it out of the way for his set to start. All in all, it was just very humiliating. And
well, I mean, okay, but let's just break. First of all, this was after the album was cut, so this is like 1970, or is that around there?
I'd say, yeah, that would be as good a guess as I could give you.
And obviously, Sly was cutting records on Epic and was really.
Oh, yeah, we were in the studio with Sly. A lot of times they were in a different studio the same night we were at CBS, and we'd see them hanging around in the break room and stuff.
They were down in Southern California cutting records, because I mean they were. Is that what? Because they were essentially.
Yeah, they were. Yeah. They were in CBS right at the same time we were.
Yeah, the original drummer Greg Arico is a dear friend of mine. I cannot wait to transcribe this story. It's so funny because, I mean, I understand you didn't have roadies, and I understand, like, yeah, you weren't as popular as Sly, and maybe you didn't bring your best game to the table that night. But
we were unknown. We were totally unknown. They didn't know who we were.
Right.
And we didn't either.
That's just unbelievably fascinating. So, I mean, during that time, were you also, how were you, like, where were you guys playing the Whiskey A Go-Go? Were you playing, where were you, what kind of clubs, how were you singing for your supper?
Way smaller clubs, mostly around in the valley, and sometimes we'd travel down to a joint called the Clubhouse in Long Beach, and these were just to put food on the table. And,
what about like the Golden Bear in Huntington Beach?
Now that rings a bell.
Right, I'm just trying
to think. We
think.
never played the Whiskey nor the Troubadour or any of those like major clubs.
Did you how was it measured, or what was your feeling like? Just not a matter of how many records were sold or how it was popular or not, but how did you guys deal with or how did it feel to get a pressing of your first LP?
Oh man, we felt like the kings of the world. This is the beginning, boys. Here we go. Here's our record. And, we were very excited. We were on top of the world.
And how did
Gary was starting to get some acting stuff going on, kind of during that time. Jimmy Best, that he went to every week, and I think he went off to do a B movie called Angels Hard as They Come.
Wow.
And was gone for about 6 weeks, and this was kind of signaling the beginning of the end of CARP, because we couldn't have him going off and being gone.
What is the meaning behind the name of the album?
Oh, CARP?
Yeah.
Well, that was always kind of a running joke, that a CARP is just a real low-life trash fish. And so we felt like that suited us pretty well. So, yeah, we were CARP. In fact, we ended up with a phone number that was something like 877 CARP. Three of the guys, Gary and Ron and Glenn, rented a house out in Woodland Hills, and I was married then, and we lived in Reseda in an apartment. But we'd get together every day in the afternoon from about 1 to 5 and rehearse.
Even
That
though,
was our general day.
you know, playing at the clubhouse or obviously the gig with Sly, I mean, how were you, based on what was happening, what happened with Post 3 years prior when you had the Studio Sharks doing it all instrumentally, how easy or hard was it to take what you were doing in the studio and present it in a live form? I mean, you guys, nobody would mistake you for the Wrecking Crew. So, I mean, was that part of the issue?
We could certainly duplicate the tracks on the record because we played them. That was no problem. We could play those songs and sing them. Because, we had done the recording. We probably did the tracks first and then went back over and did the vocals as an overdub. I think that's the way Danny did it.
Yeah, no, I'm curious about your memory and recollection of that session because, you know, you guys could all sing really good, and Danny said that.
Oh, you mean the Mike Post session?
No, the CARP session because, you know, basically Busey wanted to sing all the lead vocals, and Moore's like, well, actually, there are cats in this band that sing better than you. And he said that,
I didn't really remember that part of it, but I think that was a good story.
Well, he said it because he said he was, you know, he said, I'm just, you know, partly tongue-in-cheek here, but that was one of the major, he said that he could have really set Busey on his acting course because I think Gary only wound up with one lead vocal on that entire album.
Right. I think that's an exaggeration. I think Gary was probably on 4 or 5.
Interesting.
Say out of 12-ish. Mainly, I was the other vocalist as far as the singing the solo, though everybody could sing, as I remember. Oh, I wanted to tell you an interesting story. You had asked once about how we did our vocals.
Yeah.
Well, Glenn Mitchell, who was the one from Stillwater, his dad, Max Mitchell, was the head of the music department at OSU and a very educated and scholarly musician himself.
Damn.
And his mother also was a doctorate in education. And he played the keyboard, and he'd always be good at, if we're doing a C chord on this one, Crowder, you sing the C, and Ron, you got the E, and Gary, you got the G, and we'd move on like that, and we finally deduced that he must have been fertilized by musical sperm. His mom and dad must have had the radio going the night he was conceived, and he was conceived by musical sperm, and that became his nickname, Sperm. From then on, he was known far and wide as Sperm, and he arranged the vocals.
So I mean,
tidbit on.
No, I mean, he just his lineage. I mean, he the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. Musical sperm. I mean, that's one of the greatest names.
Right.
Did any of the cats, not including Busey or yourself maybe, but I mean, once it was clear that CARP was not going to be getting a big budget for another 3-record deal, and you know things were.
Right.
Did any of those cats have the chops to? Did any of them continue on in the music business in the racket?
Well, as it happens, Ron and Sperm and I all left California about the same time and converged on Tulsa. And this is, in 72 or 3, and played around in Tulsa with various drummers for 2 or 3 years, and ended up a friend of ours, Richard Crooks, who's just a phenomenal drummer from New York. He has passed away since. but he had played with Dr. John and one and another, played on a jillion records. But he and his wife had an apartment up in New York, and they thought she was kind of on the verge of a record deal. So we three, me and Ron and Sperm, moved up to New York and lived with them in their apartment and their new baby for a while, and took our shot at a record deal, but we didn't end up getting anything. But we made some, studio musician. We were able to work as, not certainly the first call, but
wait a minute! Don't you Crowder? Do not be shy about this. What albums are you guys on, man? This is unbelievable.
Well, I don't know as a trio that we were on so much together.
I'm talking about you. Yeah, no, I'm talking about you. Like what? I know you weren't the first call. You weren't the. Well, first of all, were you playing? Were you just being called as a singer or also a bass player?
Both.
Interesting. So listen. Yeah. Go ahead.
We were playing in little clubs around New York, and these producers. This was back in the day when they hired musicians to come in and do demos for jingles, for songwriters and so on. It wasn't that everybody had a studio in their garage.
I dig.
They do now.
Mm-hmm.
And so we got work around, and I played with a band called Deliverance, Eric Weisberg.
Oh my God! Are the Dueling Banjos?
Doodling Banjos.
Wait a minute, you're on that album?
Well, actually, no. The Eric after the movie was a hit, and the song from the movie. He made an album and then had to go out on the road and promote it. And the bass player, Tony Brown, who had actually played, he played on that album. He left the band, and Eric called me to be in the band because Richard Crooks, the drummer, was in the band also. So he got me in the door, and I sang and played bass for them for a while.
That's you were road dog. I mean, do you remember? Were there any sessions that stand out in your mind that you were called for in terms of? I mean, if you look up John Crowder on All Music, you don't find. But I mean, a lot of times, like Dueling Banjos, for instance, they don't list the accompanist credits at all. So I don't even Tony Brown or Crook. I mean, I don't know who was on that actual LP, but do you remember? Was there any kind of memorable studio experience for you so I can go dig out those records and know that you were on them, even if you weren't listed on them?
Yeah, I do look at allmusic.com. That they were all the lesser known people. I didn't get any Whitney Houston.
That's where the rubber meets the road for me. Who are the less? I know all the lesser known people. Those are the cats I've been interviewing.
There was a fella, a South African guy named Tony Bird. Was one.
Tony Bird. Byrd?
Yes, sir.
Holy shit. What else?
Gene Ritchie was a kind of a folk singer, a folk gospel, and I think that album won some kind of award of the year.
Yeah, no, that was was that on Elektra Records or something like that?
I can't remember, to be honest.
Yeah.
I played on a couple of Janis Ian albums and toured in her band for a couple of years.
Yep, here we go.
Now,
wait a minute. I'm just going to throw this down right. I'm looking at it. Tony Bird, like Bird of Paradise, London Wainwright, Brian Taylor, Gene Ritchie. So London, you actually did quite a bit of work with London Wainwright. Loudon Wainwright, thank you. And my God, Leonard.
Yeah, he was Dead Skunk in the Middle of the Road was his AM hit some years ago.
Unbelievable stuff. John, we have a game on this program called Name That Voice. I'm going to put this in for you right now. I want you to pay attention to it, and then we'll come back and break it down.
The lead
jazz guy in Tulsa during the real early days, the late 50s and 60s. This is when I, really started getting into it. And Sonny Gray, and he had his own club. And he had a drummer that was Tulsa's answer to Joe Morello. And we'd go out there, and I'd listen to him, and he'd do things. It was just like, it'd be like watching the Ed Sullivan Show and some guy pulling rabbits out of a hat.
Right. He had eight arms. Yeah, no, he was flying all over the place.
He was so advanced a drummer beyond anything I did. Now, for my early influence was Leon's drummer, Chuck Blackwell, who unfortunately we just lost about 3, maybe 4 months ago.
Oh, rest in peace, Chuck, man. I didn't know he just left us.
Yeah, we lost Chuck. And,
so I want to ask you something. This is so important. So was he your peer, or was he already a little bit ahead of you? And then please continue on why he had
he was very much ahead of me.
Uh-huh.
I remember the first night I heard him. Well, he was playing with Leon. He was considered Leon's drummer for forever. And the first night I ever went out to hear him, in fact, well, of course, I've had to quit playing now, but I still, if I was still playing, I still set up my drums and tuned them in line with what Chuck had. That first night I went out to see him, that was probably about 1959 or 1960 was the first time I ever heard he and Leon play. And Chuck was more of a mentor to me, and an inspiration. And
you want to take a guess at who that is?
I don't know.
Well, I'm hoping that because he went back to Tulsa around the time that your trio, you, Sperm, and the other cat went back to Tulsa, that was a drummer named Jimmy Karstein.
Oh, I know Karstein.
Yeah, exactly. That was from my interview. Right, so I interviewed Jimmy from March of 2018, and I queued up that clip because I just assumed that Crowder and all you cats were from Tulsa. But and I wasn't actually going to play the audio once you told me that you actually were from Stillwater. Is that right? Stillwater?
No, Fairfax.
Fairfax. Yeah. So
from Stillwater.
Yeah, right. No, but I mean Karstein. But you said you played with different drummers, obviously, because Busey stayed on the West Coast. But
now we probably we might have played with Karstein a time or two. Seems like he was around and would come out and play.
Unbelievable, man. How many?
I wanted to say one more thing about the New York days.
Do it, yeah.
While I was working with Eric and Deliverance, the Cohen brothers called up Eric and said, "We need a yodeler for Raising Arizona. Can you come and do that?" And he said, "Well, I can't, but John might be able to. Why don't you give him a call?" And so they did, and I did, and the rest is history.
Unbelievable. Raising Arizona.
The yodeler on Raising Arizona.
John Crowder, is any of the remaining trio, including yourself aside, are the other two cats still with us today?
Yes, they're on this earth. Now, Ron Gutman was a member of the group called the Tractors.
I don't know that.
That had the Boogie Woogie Choo Choo Train. Well, has it been 10 years ago? Wow. They were out of Tulsa.
Well, I guess I just would love if you could maybe connect me with them so I could, square the circle on this group. And is Sperm still around?
Living the life of a millionaire down in Florida.
Well, maybe Crowder, man. This was we've just been cooking for 51 minutes, man. I mean, this was one of the most epic hangs I've done.
Wow.
Yeah, and maybe you can connect me with those guys so we can just keep digging through the stories because, all that's gold doesn't always shine,
Right. right. Well, I will tell these boys via email and that you're looking for them, and if they seem to be interested, I'll give you their phone numbers.
Thank you, Crowder, and really happy holidays to you and your family, and thanks for taking the time, man. It was such a ball, man. I'll put up a copy of this later. I'll probably be transcribing some of the interviews because, I mean, it's all about messing up the mind of a young girl. That still hasn't changed, and to now know that Dacey's on that and whatever, man. It's just it's a magical thing, man.
That was the Wrecking Crew, yeah.
The original crew, man. So yeah, go about your day. Have a beautiful day. I'll get you a copy of this later, and please let me know about Sperm and the other cat as well.
Sperm and Ron.
Sperm and Ron, baby. And best to you, my friend. All right.
Thank you so much.
All right, dude. Talk to you soon, man.
Okay.
Later. Bye-bye. Bye. Just a humble cat, yodeler, singer, and great bass player John Crowder. We'll be back with Roy Seaburn right after this.